Welcome to the Be Well at USASK podcast. My name's Peter Headley. Each week, members of the USASK and wider community will join me to share ideas and provide guidance on all aspects of being well. And we'll be highlighting campus initiatives and resources designed to engage and support you. In these challenging times, we hope the ideas and information we share will help. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to Jonathan Winston, who's the Vice-President of ComPsych, which is the world's largest provider of employee assistance programs and is the University of Saskatchewan partner delivering the GuidanceResources Employee and Family Assistance EFAP program. Jonathan and I are going to be talking about the EFAP provided by ComPsych in partnership with the university and understanding what services are available through the program, especially those supports that people may not be aware they have access to. Well, welcome to the podcast, Jonathan. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for inviting me.
So can you tell me a little about your role and background and the work that your team does to support organizations, including the University of Saskatchewan, with employee wellness across the country and indeed across the world?
Yeah, sure. My role is I'm Vice President for ComPsych, and I've been with the organization for about 10 years. But I've been working in the Employee and Family Assistance Program arena for 20 plus years, and I have a clinical background, so I come by this honestly as an industry. My master's counseling and psychology background, and for about 15 years on the side, I also worked in various hospital crisis teams, emerge departments, mobile crisis units, and worked a lot with first responders. So again, thinking about the EFAP, I really believe in the service. I think it's a great program to offer that employers do. And we have a great team. We have a team that are involved in the account services in terms of managing directly the relationship with the university, for example, and ensuring that we respond effectively and identify, what are unique needs that the university might present in terms of how do we support you as an organization. We've got a strong clinical team right from the intake for those people who answer the calls when somebody dials in, to doing a good assessment and triage of the needs, to one or multiple resources. A creative services group who put out content, be it seasonal related content, things like how to get some support around holidays or back to school time frames or things like that. And then a training team who can also back that up to offer lunch and learns and various specific topic trainings. So we've got a really good backdrop of professionals and individuals there to support the university. And we do this across the country for, be it university staff or their dependents or family members who might be outside of the local region. And of course, organizations that we work with in about 170 countries.
So just spinning off that, so can you explain just in sort of practical terms what the Employee and Family Assistance Program looks like for employees of the University of Saskatchewan and what the services look like? You just sort of touched upon family, but maybe expand upon that, but in-person versus virtual services, what does that look like and what do people have access to?
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great question. And we always want people to be aware, of course, to be sure that they know what's available to them. And so, most people would associate an EFAP program with the counseling. And of course, that's something that is a big request for individuals calling in for people who would like to speak with. And we typically try to encourage them to see a counselor in person. And I'm talking in normal, non-COVID times, shall we say. Of course, during this particularly unusual period, we certainly will offer other technologies like telephonic and e-based support. But typically speaking, we do try to encourage in-person counseling, and we have a great platform for support for that for the university staff, be it when they call in, they have the option to see our team. We've got 3 on-site counselors on campus or off campus, of course. So that's really for people to get support around a variety of topics, anxiety, depression, stress, pretty much anything that affects somebody on a personal level. Then we've got a great solution around work-life services, where somebody can call in. They're looking for resources, be it some of the more traditional things like childcare and elder care, but it could also be somebody who's looking for a plumber or a contractor to fix the damage of something that's occurred in their household, or they're planning an event, they're getting married, and they're looking for a venue. So pretty much anything that an individual, he or herself, may need to resource, we can start that process and help them through our team. We also have legal support as well for anybody who would like to speak to a lawyer about any non-employment related issue, financial concerns, and then there's the health coaching component, which is a great tool too, which I can elaborate on.
Yeah, I think there'd be a lot of those things, and I'm particularly thinking about looking for not only qualified but quality contractors, and even that piece around, I guess, what sounds to me more like a concierge service. That was certainly a surprise to me when I first learned about that a couple of years ago.
That's an aspect of the service that a lot of people are not aware of, and it actually does differentiate ComPsych in the market, particularly here in Canada. I guess the concept there is that people just have things that come up in life. We all have that. It might be something related to a particular event, like having a child, or they're moving, or they've recently come to the community and they don't know how to necessarily, or maybe don't have time to, find a family doctor, for example, who's accepting new patients. So it's really just dealing with life events, and we try to let people know that the scope of the support that's available goes beyond what some people traditionally think is associated with an EFAP program.
And so, in practical terms, so I would call up, I would get in touch with the Guidance Resources information, and presumably I would lay out the issue or the challenge that I was facing, and then some support or advice would be given, and some research, by the sounds of things, conducted for me as to what a possible solution to that would be.
Exactly, Peter. Yeah, somebody, the individual would call in. They'd go through an assessment with the intake team, who themselves are clinically trained, and they'll speak with the individual to share with them how the EFAP program can support, what's available, and then they will navigate the program and set them up, and from there they will get the service or be in contact with their local counselor.
And I guess I'm particularly thinking of the value for newcomers to Saskatoon, or even newcomers to Canada, where actually, and as was I a few years ago, and even navigating this new system can be quite challenging.
Yes, absolutely, and that's a great point, and something that I think is important to consider. As you say, somebody who's new to the community, be they from outside of Canada or just generally not familiar with the resources locally, they can give the EFAP a call, and we will help resource information right from the point of even renting an apartment or a house to live in, through to providing information around how to get a driver's license, setting up a bank account, anything like that could support a newcomer.
So just to touch upon the mental health piece, because as you say, I mean, it's for a lot of people, that's what they would consider the major piece of this. Do you tend to find in your work with your team that there are barriers to people accessing some of these supports, or is there any feedback to suggest that that's the case?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. The challenge with EAPs or EFAPs over the years, of course, is to ensure that people are comfortable with the fact that it is a completely confidential service. No information is released to anyone without that person's written legal consent, should they choose. But some people, unfortunately, have still had some consideration that maybe their supervisor will find out or a family member will find out. But we try to equate it to, it's as if somebody was going to see their family doctor. Similarly, the confidentiality is there. We have code of ethics, privacy laws, all of that supports people's privacy. And I think that's certainly changed most recently, and the concept of mental health has come into the limelight. And we certainly want people to be comfortable with the fact that they can present the program with whatever is concerning them, certainly as it relates to mental health.
Yeah, I think that is the critical piece for a lot of people, isn't it? That sense of will my employer know what I come to discuss? Would that have any kind of role? But it's reassuring to hear that the confidentiality piece that we hear, and really just the opportunity that people have, presumably 24/7 to actually get in touch for some kind of support.
Yes, absolutely. The intake team is available 24/7. If somebody's in more of a heightened state or a crisis, we're there to support them. The intake team will always do an assessment based on any potential threat to harm. Of course, we'll take steps associated with that if need be. But yes, we are there to support and available 24/7.
And in terms of just, I'm a parent myself, and I know a lot of considerations are there for my wife and I about our children. Could I get in touch to seek some advice or information if I had concerns about any of my children's well-being, and particularly mental health things?
Yes, of course. We certainly have a team that has the experience in working with children, and by all means, initiated by a parent who has the concern, and they can come in, speak with a counselor, whether it's on their own to start with, to discuss the situation. And then, after that, if it's appropriate, and of course, age depending, include the children in the counseling process. Obviously, if the child is an adult, it's at that point, of course, they would be considered, someone that would access the service on their own and be able to share details with the family members, of course, if they wish to, but they would access it on their own.
And so this does provide an additional support than would actually be found in the community. I know there's a lot of people feel that they're reliant upon in this area the Saskatchewan Health Authority, but it is an alternative, as you say, and presumably the referral would be made to a counsellor with some specialism in that particular thing. So someone from your network.
That's right. Yes. In our system, we, of course, have a network of clinicians that we work with, and that system also lets us know of any particular specialties or training, or for that matter, counselors who may be less comfortable working with children, which that, of course, exists. And so we'll make sure that the match is the most appropriate. But that being said, just to tack on to that point, Peter, we always want people to be comfortable with the fact that, understanding that counseling is very personal, that if they do go and see a counselor and they don't connect well on the level that they feel that they can share their details with, we always encourage them to call us back, let us know. By all means, we will refer them to somebody else. And it can be just as simple as somebody calling in, not really recognizing the fact that maybe they would have preferred to speak with a male counselor or a female counselor based on their particular topics. So we're very flexible. We want to accommodate. We want to make sure that this process works well for them. That service is correct.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, just that notion of fit with any service that we access, and people's sort of choice. And I've certainly experienced myself in the case of one counselor I met who was very good. It just wasn't a great fit for me, and someone else who was a better fit. So I think that's definitely an important point to know. And I should probably add, I mean, my sense is that I've heard very good things about the practitioners or the in-person service that's provided in Saskatoon through the EFAP. So just an important one to say that as well.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, we've got a great team, in particular in Saskatoon, but across the province, and then our on-site counselors, Angie, Kelly, and Curtis. They are great resources and certainly are familiar with the university and provide the on-site support on campus.
So thinking about our current situation you mentioned with COVID-19, what are some of the things that you and your organization are noticing most about employee health and well-being, across the country, but indeed maybe the world? And do you anticipate some of how people are doing right now to change in the months to come?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's interesting as we discuss this particular topic as it relates to global. And it's something that, you think about and you realize that certainly in Canada, we're dealing with it at the stage where we're at. But interestingly enough, because we also provide support to organizations that are in Asia and China in particular, they're ahead of the process as to where we are, for example. So when we were talking about how it was impacting us, they had already gone through that phase and were looking to return to normal life, whatever that might be. But yes, we're supporting organizations and looking and trying to reassure people around the uncertainty, of course. I think one of the things we noticed over the last several weeks regarding the COVID-19 is, people were really focusing on themselves. What is it that they needed to get through the day and the questions about impact and how this is going to affect me and my job. We do feel that, there will be, and it's starting to surface now, questions about the financial concerns and the impact that this has taken. But we've tried to offer various tools that people can tap into, be they digital toolkits that we've put out that talk about the issue itself, but also webinars, again, things like, navigating work from home, to even the points of, having issues around poor eating habits, because emotions are impacting me while I'm at home, and that's impacting my eating habits and all kinds of things like that, which we've really tried to identify what we are seeing and try to be proactive in supporting people and organizations.
And so, I should highlight, and we'll add some links to this in the podcast details, that there are some excellent resources that ComPsych has supported the university in providing on the university website. And as you say, there's some video content which is very good, and some continuing offerings, as you say, in the form of webinars that some people may be aware of, but there may be a lot of people who aren't.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we'll continue to broadcast that, and as we sort of get to the next phase of this pandemic, continue to provide relevant information and details, and just in general try to promote the EFAP as an ongoing resource and tool that the university is offering staff and faculty to help them in dealing with whatever stage they're in their own individual lives as well.
So I'm curious, just to sort of turn to your experience in terms of what you've noticed change in 20 years of your involvement with this kind of program, but also based upon your own working experience. What you see as some of the changes, and we were talking about this the other day in another episode, that people are drinking the Kool-Aid, particularly around mental health now. What do you see as some of the biggest differences and maybe the opportunities those present?
Well, you're right. Drinking the Kool-Aid, I think the fact that mental health is in the limelight and people are actually not afraid to talk about it anymore. We're also, looking at supporting people who may be involved in various sectors of their own lives and sort of social communities, be it individuals who have particular interest in, let's say, the LGBTQ community, the new generation coming into the workforce as well, and what do the new generations, what are they concerned about? So again, not trying to be a stodgy program, but really to be up at the times to really understand what's impacting people at the various stages. And so it's always, I find, a great opportunity for us to connect with people in their various stages of life to share with them how this program can impact them at that stage. It's not just a broadcast overall of the services, but really what's impacting me in my life. And with that, it can resonate with those individuals as to why they should even consider calling us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think creating a comfort that it's not only welcome to call, but I think that the program is reflective of the people who would be calling is hugely important.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm asking all guests to share one thing that they're doing right now to be well, something perhaps that brings them joy or a sense of connection. What would that thing be for you, Jonathan? And how do you find it helps?
Well, I have always been a runner, so I find for me in particular, especially now when things have been a bit topsy-turvy for a lot of us, and family members have been separated, and we're in a bit of an uncharted territory. That for me, physical health helps my mental health, and so be it running, albeit distanced, I make sure I do that. But also, just trying various practices at home to keep healthy. I find that really does help me. And of course, I've also been in contact with probably 3/4 of the rest of the world using Zoom to try to connect with people and friends to stay connected that way as well. So different little things just to make sure that we're not completely isolated all the time.
That's great. And presumably a lot of change is on people's minds an awful lot at the moment. And I think in a helpful way, healthy behaviors and healthy routines. Obviously, people can speak to their own family physician or existing providers, but presumably they could also contact Guidance Resources just about some information about some changes that might be on their mind at the moment.
You know what? I think that's a great point, Peter. Maybe, and then I guess people talk about this particular world event that we're in now. Could this cause some people to make some positive change to their own lives? And by all means, one of the things I was mentioning earlier that the service includes is a health coaching component where an individual can call in and talk to a coach around behavior modification of weight management and sort of physical health, along with smoking cessation. Maybe this situation has occurred where it's allowing people to kind of rethink certain, maybe less than positive behaviors. And by all means, we would encourage people to consider using this as a trigger point to make that good change.
It just seems like a very easy thing in many ways just to explore. You don't have to be too vulnerable in walking into an office, which I know can be a really challenging thing. It is just a question of picking up the phone or being online for a confidential conversation.
Yes, absolutely. We don't ask too much information. We're not looking to ask, the person's social insurance number or any details like that. We really just want contact information as to how can we reach the person and a nature of, what it is that they're looking to address and move from there. So it's really try to create as few hurdles as possible for the person to reach out and get help.
Yeah, that's great. So is there a final thought that you want to leave listeners with, either about the program or just in general?
Well, I think when we talk about the program, we just, again, try to reiterate the fact that, this is a confidential, fully paid for program that offers fairly rapid access to support. We definitely encourage people to give us a call. You have any questions, you've got any, areas that you want to explore, whether the EFAP program is an avenue for support for you, then just let us know. Just reach out, and we're a friendly bunch and would be happy to answer those questions for you at any point in time. And, the fact that Peter, you've made this podcast available is another great opportunity for us to make sure people are aware. So, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think there's a huge piece of just about making sure that people have good quality information and knowledge about supports available. Well, I know you're a busy man, so I just want to say thank you for taking the time to talk with me today and explaining about your work and making sure that the campus community has an understanding of the supports available to them.
Well, thank you, Peter, very much. And at any point, any other opportunities, please let me know. And thanks for asking me to join.
Thanks for listening to the Be Well at USASK podcast with me, Peter Headley, and thanks again to Jonathan for joining me and sharing. You can find out more details about the USASK EFAP program in the links in the podcast details. Please check in again for further episodes and more content related to being well. Please subscribe and share this podcast. You can find us on multiple platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We'd also love to hear from you, so please post comments and questions, and we'll look to include them in future episodes. Also, if there's someone you'd like to see as a guest or a topic you'd like us to cover, or even a reaction to an episode, please write to us at bewell.podcast@usask.ca. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking to Pam Komanowski, who's the nurse practitioner at the Student Wellness Centre and has been serving students at the university for over 30 years. We're going to be talking about the changing health needs of students in the post-secondary environment and the way that has changed the work of health professionals who work within it. Pam also shares some strategies for improved health outcomes related to coping with stress and isolation, changing work and life patterns, diet, physical activity, and rest. So until next time, stay safe and be well.